Hi there. I made a couple of videos and I hope you watched them, but I came across some interesting fact that I of course am very interested in your opinion about. And that's because I was looking for images of death and destruction to kind of highlight the work of Monsanto and the oil companies at the moment, because they're actually destroying life on Earth. And we're just sitting back and having to take that. I came across the 4 horses of the Apocalypse, and I never really read that very detailed story. I read Revelations once, but it sounded like a trip on marijuana to me, or some kind of bad trip. So I was reading it again, and it's very interesting because it's of course instructive to many fanatical Christians that are there's a hell of a lot of them in the US. First horseman of the Apocalypse is the one that conquers. So it's basically the drive to conquer. The whole story is that the 4 horses of the Apocalypse will bring about the last judgment situation. So the first one is a conqueror. The second one is the one that creates war, and it's given a sword, and you can interpret that as arming and arms race, arms manufacturing, weapons trade. So that's an essential part of bringing about the last judgment, besides of conquering. The third one is the one that I was a little bit surprised about, because that was called famine. But if you read the Revelation text, you read that it's about paying wages for work. Because it says, I don't have the text right here, but it says like a half an ounce of wheat for 1 day labor, and 2 ounces of barley for a half day labor. That's what this guy was tripping, that wrote that down, heard when he saw the black third horse of the Apocalypse appear. And it's quite clear that in the biblical times, it's evidenced clearly in historic documents, that wages were paid in barley and wheat, just like in China you had commodity money for a long time. You basically paid, instead you didn't have money, you didn't have gold and silver coins, you had wheat and grain and barley and all those type of things to pay people with. So the third horse of the Apocalypse is not famine, but it's commerce, and it's commercialization. It is labor, work for pay. It's actually very, if you think about the whole, let's say the whole reality of work for pay, it's a very strange thing, because basically you're being dominated, but you're accepting it for some type of reward. And that organizes society, and we all know that, and the result is that you have big financial institutions and banks that regulate all that. But the whole premise of it is that you're so benign and non-aggressive that you allow other people to determine what you do for a living, and you don't work your own land, but you work for somebody and you get paid. That's the third horse of the Apocalypse. And then the fourth horse is death. And I'm not sure how I should interpret it. I haven't actually read that text. Maybe I should, and I will. But it's quite clear that there is a big body, or a great number of fanatical Christians in the US that will read this and will say, well, we want to bring about the last judgment. We want to, want the Messiah to return. And to do that, we have to do a number of things. We have to allow these horses to roam freely. We have to allow them to destroy the world. And if they interpret famine, not the third horse, not as famine, but more correctly, in my opinion, as commerce, and they only tell everybody that it's famine, to make sure that they don't appear to be aggressive or, let's say, evil-minded, you can see that they are about driving commerce to such an extent and such a limit that it will destroy our civilization and our life on Earth. This is not my opinion. This is simply, trying to enter the mindset of a fanatical religious person that really wants to have the last judgment happen. And you only have to go back to the briefing images of the Bush briefings on the Iraq War, where every briefing had a front page. I'm not sure who made those briefings, but it was one of those neocons front page where you had some biblical text on it. So entering the gates of the kingdom or whatever, when they were driving through, let's say, into Baghdad. It's complete madness, but it gives another another meaning also to Lord Lloyd Blankfein, saying that he is doing God's work. If you take those Revelation scripts seriously, and you are and you think, well, I'm such an incredible person, I want to bring about revelations, not the revelation but the last judgment, and you identify yourself with the third horse of the apocalypse, then you'll be feeling like you're doing God's work if you allow commerce to progress, no matter what the actual situation or the effect is on humanity. That's the whole point of what you're doing. So I think it's quite interesting to read this about the third horse of the apocalypse. Of course, it's all nonsense. It's all a myth. It's all a Disney story. There's no God or whatever. I don't believe that for a moment. But I do believe that minds can be captured by this symbolism and this meaning, and then become, let's say, delusional, have delusions of grandeur, of a higher purpose. At the same time, destroying humanity. I would say, get anybody who thinks that the revelation and the last judgment is a good thing out of any decision-making situation, because they are complete lunatics.